Hello there, this is David from David Books and Comics, and today I want to talk about the sword and sorcery writing of Robert Holdstock and Angus Wells. And Robert Holdstock was major writer for the genre of fantasy. And I showed some of these books before, but I thought I'd show them in a little more detail and talk a little bit more about Robert Holdstock. So Robert Holdstock is famous, and he won the World Fantasy Award for his series of novels called the Mythago Wood series. A very inventive fantasy series that he created back in 19 starting in 1984 with a novel called Rye-Hope Wood. He also wrote the Merlin Codex, and the but he was most known for his Mythago Wood with Lavendis and Mythago Wood series. A very inventive, very original series. So but the first fantasy novels he wrote were sword and sorcery, and they were he co-created a character called Raven, and they were first published in 1978, and this is the first edition paperback. I had to edit it, unfortunately. But this is the Ace reprints. And the Ace reprints are pretty much, not pretty much, but exactly the same as the word for word, exactly the same as the original Corgi editions. This one I bought just recently. So this is the Luis Royo who did this series. And I can flip through those. The covers are well drawn, but I prefer the Chris Akaleo series done for the Corgi editions. You can flip and see. So this was originally the Corgi edition is the first edition. It was published in 1978. The Luis Royo covers were done by Ace in 1987. And so it talks about Raven. Raven is a woman who was raped by her villain when she was very young. Her mother and father were killed, and she sets out on a road of vengeance. She is helped out by this mythical bird, as you see in the covers of the novels. This raven. The stories always open up with an elderly man describing and telling her story. The elderly man happens to be one of the main characters in the novel. His name is Spellbinder. So this is the first novel. It's called Sword's Mistress of Chaos. And this novel was written by Robert Holdstock and Angus Wells. Robert Holdstock was born in 1948 and died in 2009 of something called E. coli. And Angus Wells, he was born in 1943 and died in 2009. Sorry, Angus Wells died in 2006. He was in his 60s also. And sorry, Robert Holdstock died in 2009. And he was in his 60s of E. coli. So this is the first novel. You can flip through that and see beautiful cover. And this is The Time of Ghosts, the second novel. And this one was written by Robert Holdstock by himself. And it again follows the adventures of Raven. And this is Raven's world. Carwan is there where all the wizards were from. And that's where a spellbinder was from. In all of the novels, this mysterious bird, this raven, is kind of a divine intervener throughout her history. The novels are actually, in my view, really well written because they have some of the best. Some people describe it as pulp, but the writers were a little above, not a little, but they're quite above average in terms of their style of writing, especially Robert Holdstock. And Angus Wells was more known for writing a series of pulp style type westerns. But he was also an editor and also a very competent writer. So this is The Frozen God. And this is Lords of Shadows. And this one was written by Holdstock. And this is Time of Dying. So there's only 5 books in the series. The books have been translated into Spanish, into French, and currently available in the French editions, and into German. So they are really popular. So these are the Ace Books editions, and these are the Corgi editions. So I have 4 of them, including the first one, and I had to edit it, unfortunately. And this is Raven. And you can see there it features the other 2 novels. And you can see Corgi edition published 1978. With the novel unchanged, virtually page by page, unchanged in the Ace reprint. So from out of the bonds of slavery there rose a warrior feared across all lands, a warrior whose blade was stained with the blood of thousands, man and beast. Smiled as she killed, with hair as gold as summer sun, eyes as blue as the heavens, and a body which invited only love, yet dealt bloody, merciless death to her enemies. So there you go. She's described as kind of chosen. She's described as the sword's mistress of chaos. Many of the reviewers of his material, of the Raven books, don't really mention what that means, but the concept of chaos really comes in British fantasy and British sword and sorcery from the Michael Moorcock's Elric of Melniboné series. So it's nowhere else mentioned in any sword and sorcery fantasy except in the Elric novels. Anyway, so that's where that's from. And this is the cover of Frozen God. This is number 3 in the series. This one was written by Angus Wells. There you go. And then it goes into the World Heart. That's what you see on the map there, the World Heart. The prologue is always what introduces each of the novels. And basically it's it shows a scenario where this old man, who turns out to be Spellbinder, retells the adventures of Raven. I just love the Corgi editions. Anyway, so this is number 3, Frozen God, and this one was written by Robert Holdstock. This is Lords of Shadows. So the unthinkable had occurred, the wall of thoughts, barrier against the unknown, had been breached, unleashing a dark force into the world, the ghost lords of Uthganar. So the concept in fantasy of something called Big Little, which shows up in the Mythago Woods series, is also a feature of this novel, something that Holdstock would develop, obviously, with greater detail in greater depth in the Mythago Woods series. So this is The Lord of Shadows, number 4. And this one I also had to edit because this is very much a family channel. And this is number 5, A Time of Dying. Incidentally, in the novels, Raven is always clothed, and she's always wearing chainmail. More of this feature than of the skimpy costumes you see. The novels are, again, written by excellent writers, and really the first fantasy foray of Robert Holdstock. Subsequent to this novel, he wrote what was called the Berserker series, and that came out in 1977 and from 1977 to 79. In those novels, he also they're more like Conan with a time element where the character kind of reincarnates and goes forward and backwards in time. Anyway, the Raven novels are the ones that I've collected because of the covers of the artists, Luis Royo and Chris Ikaleos. So I hope you enjoyed this short video of the sword and sorcery novels of Robert Holdstock and Angus Wells. And if you did, remember to give me that like. Thanks everyone for subscribing, and feel free to comment and let me and share anything you may want to share about both about Robert Holdstock and or about Angus Wells or anything else related to the presentation. Okay, thanks. Bye.